From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
One more corner pocket.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
And Corey Clark.
Wake up! What's up, everybody? It's Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Coming up on today's show, it's the Renegade Express mailbag. We got season propositions, over-unders, hypotheticals. We dive through it all on Wake Up Warchant. Presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, Tallahassee, Florida. CPTallybar.com is the website. 2475 Appalachia Parkway. Lunch specials Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. for only $8.99. Can't go wrong any day of the week. Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Live music this weekend, Corey? Do we know?
I don't think so, buddy.
Okay.
But thanks for asking. The jukebox always works, and it always plays good music.
Freaking A right. That's Corey Clark. He's joining us, grinding away. Warchant.com, the ultimate Seminole sports source. 5-star rating and review, please. Thumbs up, please, as well. And another reminder, if you're a member of Warchant.com, you can take advantage of exclusive offers at Garnet and Gold, whether it's in-store or online. 25% off the College Vault collection, this Wednesday coming up. So get on it, folks. Be a subscriber to Warchant.com, the ultimate Seminole sports source. Corey, in full dad mode, feel like I should start one of the off-topic questions about parenthood. Maybe we'll do it from the rip here. How are you, Corey, joining us from Hoover, Alabama?
I'm a little tired. Got in, as we record this, I got in on Wednesday night. Then he had a game, early afternoon on Thursday. But I didn't sleep real well. I'm at the Embassy Suites, which is a nice hotel, but I knew breakfast ended at 9:30, and I woke up at like 9:15, and I'm like, should I go back to sleep for a little while? But that omelet bar. So I made myself get up for the omelet bar, and then I'm just tired. We went to lunch after his game, and then I just worked out, and now I'm talking to you fine folks.
Let's do it. Primetime 92. Gentlemen, the king of the Wake Up Warchant offseason has returned. Primetime 92. I have had a big month recently. I got engaged to my girlfriend on our vacation in Greece. Congrats. Well done. All right. The trip was incredible. The food and snorkeling were some of the best I have ever had. Plus, the prices are so much cheaper than here. Amen, brother. Question.
Are they? What's the deal there? Why is Greece so cheap?
I don't know. They had really bad inflation for a long time.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay. So you could go there for like $100.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
I guess maybe they're not part of the Euro exchange. I don't know. Don't correct me, everybody. I'm sorry. It's Friday.
It was my fault for asking.
Let's just make it to the weekend, everybody.
Yeah.
What are the difficulties of raising a teenager in today's world? I continually am grateful I grew up in the 90s and early 2000s compared to today.
So I guess he's asking me.
Yeah.
Look, man, I just think it's social media. I think, and it's not just, there's bullying on social media.
Jimbo Fisher over here joining the podcast.
Well, I'm not saying it's bad I'm not saying it's awful and it's ruining society, but it's just so much different. Like it used to be, if I had a 15-year-old son in 1994, I would know who he's talking to because the phone would ring. You know what I mean? But now I don't know who he's talking to. We still don't allow him to get on Snapchat because those things, I think, delete themselves in 30 seconds. But he's the only kid apparently in America, as he tells us, that's not on Snapchat. And for all I know, he probably is on Snapchat. We just don't know it. But I just think, his mom went through a couple of text message exchanges he had and was horrified. Not like he was saying awful stuff, but maybe – just what 15-year-old boys would maybe text about.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, yeah, I was kind of I was talking like that too, but we didn't write down our conversations on notebooks and leave them around the kitchen. But that's what happens now. So, I just think social media makes it really hard. Not really hard, just different. And my biggest complaint with him is we drove 3 hours the other night to get to this tournament. And he's never looking out the window. We drove by Talladega, which is a cool thing to see. I mean, there wasn't a race going on, but it's pretty awe-inspiring when you drive by it. And he didn't even look up I was like, hey, Brady, look at that. He was still looking at his phone the whole time. So to answer your question, it's always been hard, I would imagine. But maybe Brady would have been hard in 1986 too. Maybe Brady's just he was going to be a challenge no matter when.
So diplomatic, Dad.
Hmm.
Well done. I thought I was going to have to save you there and log that into the notepad for editing, but we don't.
And the girl situation is getting. He maybe confides a little too much with his dad. I appreciate it, but there's some stuff I don't want to. I don't want to picture my 15-year-old doing, and I'm not talking about X-rated stuff, but even the PG-13 stuff is like I don't want to think about my son doing that. Just hold hands, man.
I was around in second base, Dad. You should have seen me.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, all right, Brady, just shut up and let's talk baseball.
Let's talk Florida State football. Noel Boy 02, wake up. Who do you consider Florida State's biggest rival outside of the Big Three? Thanks for all you do. Go Noles. The Big Three being the Gators, the Hurricanes, and Wake Forest. Kidding. Clemson, not Wake Forest.
I was going to say Wake. I don't know.
Oklahoma?
Yeah, we don't see them enough. Florida State doesn't play them quite enough.
Right. Texas A&M?
That's not a bad one. I would think FSU Twitter might throw them in there because of all the back and forth between the two fan bases, which is really it's laughable that Texas A&M fans come at Florida State fans. Literally, they haven't won it. When did Texas A&M win their last national championship, Aslan?
Before color television, I think.
I think Wizard of Oz was in the theaters. Well, and that was a color movie there, the second half of it. So there you go. That counts, A&M fans. There was some color in the world back then. I don't know that there is another one. NC State?
Yeah.
But there's nothing that's even close to those three. Those three are so far and away that I don't even know what fourth place would be.
Yeah.
Auburn? No, they haven't played them in forever either.
Yeah, it's been a while. Geo Noel, wake up, gents. Just want to say thank you for all you do and how you keep
Jacksonville State?
Too soon.
Sorry. All right, sorry.
Too soon. Thank you for all you guys do and how you keep this Noel train going down the tracks during these summer months. One question. Have you ever had a coach like Mike Norvell have a motto like offense for playmakers and it live up to the hype? Go Noles.
The mottos, I don't know. Well, lethal simplicity, there was nothing lethal about it. It was simple, but there was nothing lethal about it. Jimbo didn't really have one, did he?
Well, he had Ted, right? Toughness, effort, discipline.
Okay.
They had a season of that.
Yeah.
I
mean,
not
Bobby, a lot of D there.
Yeah. Hey-o. Bobby will play anybody, anywhere, anytime, any place. But was that not really? That was not self-proclaimed. That was kind of dubbed upon him.
I think he took over that schedule, like that 81 schedule where he had to play at Pitt, LSU, Notre Dame, Ohio State, and like Arizona State, I think, in a row. On the road is just the most preposterous thing that's ever been scheduled. That AD who scheduled that should have been fired twice. Like hired him just so you could fire him again. Just utterly preposterous. But no, and I'm trying to think of mottos and nicknames and stuff like that for offenses. I don't know. I guess Norvell's lived up to it, and the only one I really remember is, like I said, Willie Taggart's lethal simplicity, and it wasn't lethal.
Well, as for his head coaching career here, it was lethal.
Yeah. The fast break.
Okay.
With Charlie running it.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, that was kind of like a fast break, just a point guard getting it to open shooters, kind of. I guess that was something.
I should have put this up against the MyBookie read, but I'm not that good of a producer yet. It's only been 5 years, maybe one day. Old Dad's and old, wake up. There are still some 9.5s out there for Clemson. That would be their win total, over or under. Homerism aside, who do you guys think is the better value at over 9.5 wins? Florida State or Clemson? They both should be pure gifts, but you can only pick the better wager. I should maybe go to MyBookie, and I don't know if they have individual teams, over-unders.
Well, my thought would be, when was the last time Clemson finished under 10 wins?
Fair.
I feel like it's been a minute. They don't have to play, at Florida State. They also don't have to play LSU. And I think they're going to be pretty evenly matched when they do play Florida State. So to me, so much of it is on Klubnik. But if he turns out to be really good, then 9.5 will seem kind of laughably low. The number should have probably been at 10.5. So I would say the better value bet to me, not trying to anger anyone, would probably be Clemson.
My bookie has over/under win totals, but theirs for Clemson is set at 10.5.
Oh, well, there you go. That's why I thought it was a good value bet.
Yeah, so over 10.5 is plus 140. Under 10.5 is minus 173.
Yeah.
So
10-2 seems about right for them, doesn't it?
Yeah. Florida State, meanwhile, 9.5. The under is the plus proposition. The over is minus 134.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they've got to play at Duke. Then they have Charleston Southern, Florida Atlantic, host the Noles, at Syracuse, host Wake Forest, at Miami, at NC State, host Notre Dame, host Georgia Tech, host North Carolina, at South Carolina.
Okay.
I don't know. That stretch there, though, Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, North Carolina, South Carolina, they could get tripped up, maybe go 2-2 there.
Yeah, you're right. None of those are gimmies, and it's not like Clemson was rolling last year at the end of the year. I mean, they got beat pretty soundly by South Carolina, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
they did.
So.
And they didn't look all that great in the bowl game either. South Carolina took them. Well, really? No, it can't be right. They lost 31-30 against South Carolina. I thought South Carolina put it on them.
Well, hey, South Carolina beating Clemson by a point is that does seem. Is that right?
Maybe they scored.
I thought they won by 2 touchdowns. Hey, but don't doubt it. Whatever you're looking at, don't doubt.
No,
I'm
looking to see if there's a stretch there where maybe they cut the deficit or whatever. Maybe they went on I don't want to say unanswered, but consecutive points scored. But we don't have time for that. Let's keep going. Love you though, old dads and all. Shout out. Island Chief, wake up. Good morning, gentlemen. Closing in on camp and the story of the 2023 season goes from conjecture to fact. I am constantly impressed by the encyclopedic knowledge of FSU football, specifically, and college football in general, that Corey has at his ready. Aslan's knowledge is impressive too, but Corey's just so much older, it isn't fair. No, he's smarter. He just got to.
Not really that much older.
Yeah.
I'm not a generation ahead of you, right? I'm a little more than half a decade.
Yeah. He's got big. I don't even know what. I think maybe song lyrics is what I ended up using all my hard drive space on my brain on. I can hear just 2 lyrics from a song and just pick it up and just sing the rest of it. Doesn't do good when you cover Florida State. Corey's smarter. Anyhow, here's my question. In 2006, the NCAA implemented timing changes that year. First downs and kickoffs were the most significant. It lasted 1 year. It was deemed a disaster. I think I remember this. I think Urban Meyer pushed back on it maybe, or maybe embraced it, one or the other. What makes this year's changes different? Will it make for a better game? Will teams have to wait for the chain gangs to get set with a running clock? Is the opportunity to substitute after a first down mean that defenses are at a disadvantage? Thanks for all you do.
Well, what happened in 06 was the dumbest, and there are a million dumb rules in the NCAA. It is by far, I think, the dumbest football rule that was ever implemented. And the clock would start before first down. So I'm trying to remember what Florida State lost to NC State. NC State was terrible and went 2-10. But they ended up beating Florida State that year on one of those stupid Thursday nights where the quarterback was the son of the broadcaster, and it was a feel-good, heart-wrenching story, and then the kid was horrible. But he beat Florida State. Good for him. He beat Drew Weatherford. But I remember Florida State threw an interception or missed a field goal or something near the end of the game. NC State got the ball back with the lead, trying to run out the clock, and the clock starts before first down. Just think about how dumb that is. So they get the ball with 2:20 left, and they don't have to run a play for the clock to start running. It was just absolutely, that was the rule, that the clock would start, the game clock would start before first down after a change of possession or a kickoff. Just absurdity. So this isn't that. This is just more like the NFL, where the clock isn't going to automatically stop on a first down. You will. The thing is, I think you still will have to give the chain gang, I don't know, man, 7 or 8 seconds to set up, but they need to be busting their butts. But the clock won't stop to let them set up. It's just, you won't be able to snap I don't know how that's going to work because you won't be able to snap the ball until they're ready. But how in the NFL? I guess in the NFL they never go that quick.
Right.
You know what I mean? In college, it seems like sometimes they're going as soon as the kid is tackled, they're up to the line again.
They'll
But
let
yeah,
them know. I guess, they know when to go into hyperdrive because teams go into 2-minute offense in the NFL. So they realize they need to be a little bit more urgent. I'm sure they know when they're going and doing an Auburn game and Hugh Freeze is at the controls or whatever. Like they know certain schools will do that and they'll probably be a little bit more ready to handle that situation.
I did a story right when this was announced a couple of months ago, like breaking down the Oklahoma game, I think, and the Florida game, and how much time was lost, how much time would be lost in the current format, and I can't even guess what it was. And I wrote the story. I think it was about 2.5 minutes of actual game time, game clock that will now run. Because what I did was I waited till there was a first down. I timed it to 1 second, 2 second, 3 second, 4 second, 5, and then the game clock would start, and then I added that to a running tally. And I think it was like 170 seconds for one of the games and like 211 seconds for another game. And that doesn't seem like a lot. You're talking about 3 to 4 minutes, but that's a possession. So you're going to go from 11 possessions in a game to probably 10 possessions in a game, or from 10 to 9, I think is what you're looking at. It won't be a huge difference, but it will be a difference.
In the comeback win over the Gators, Corey Clark wrote, the Florida State offense had 18 first downs where the clock was stopped momentarily. The average stoppage before the ball was signaled ready for play again was right at 7 seconds of play, meaning a grand total of 2 minutes and 7 seconds of game time was saved.
There you go.
Florida saved 57 seconds total on its 10 applicable first downs. My math tells me that's 3 minutes and 4 seconds of actual game time that would now be lost with the new rules.
So 10 to 12 plays, 12 to 15 plays, depending on, and I'm talking about total for each team. Yeah. So if Florida State's out, what was it? 2.5 minutes? What'd you say?
3 minutes and 4 seconds.
But what was Florida State?
2 minutes, 7 seconds.
So if you're running a play every 15 or 20 seconds, that's 10 plays that you're missing out on now because the clock is not going to stop. But you just got to coach them to go faster, too, especially when you have a good offense. Like, you've got to adjust to this, and I hope they do.
I know, but there's still some buffer between those plays, so I don't think it's that many plays because it's not like as soon as the ball, they go down, they're snapping off another play. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's 20 yards down the field. They've got to run and catch up to it. So it might not be, the exact math you just did right there in terms of like 10 plays. It might be closer to like 7. Did that make sense, or am I out of my lane?
Yeah, I got you.
Thank you, Island Chief. Appreciate you. Almost as much as we do Vitamin Energy. VitaminEnergy.com. Promo code is WarChant, BOGO, BOGO. Buy one, get one free. Going to stock up on the Immune Plus and the Mood Plus as I head abroad with Ira and Jeff Cameron so I can stay healthy and I can stay in a good mood so I don't incur the wrath of Ira Schofel, Corey. So I'm hoping you've learned by now to take the Mood Plus when you're out there in Hoover at these baseball tournaments. Give you that pep that you need. Give you the vitamins that you need, and absolutely no sugar, so no sugar crash. VitaminEnergy.com, promo code WarChant BOGO, buy one, get one free. VitaminEnergy.com, shake it, take it. Next question, Corey. Welcome back. Grumpy BK, wake up, boys. Title time question. How many total yards this season do you think each of the following players need for this team to win the college football playoff? Jordan Travis.
Let's see, 5,000? 4,800? Okay. If you're going to win the college football playoff, that means you're playing 15 games, right?
Yeah.
So he's got to average over 300 yards a game. 4,800, 5,000 yards.
Trey Benson.
Ooh. Total yards we're talking, right?
Yeah,
so
I mean,
we could throw receiving in there
what's
too.
He going to get, like 150 yards receiving maybe?
Yeah, but if he averages, he's not going to run for 1,500 yards. I'd say total 1,500. He could average 90 yards a game rushing, 85 yards a game rushing. The fact of the matter is they're not going to need him for every game. You're not going to give him 26 carries in a game you're winning by 4 touchdowns. So you might not give him 26 carries in any game. So I just think if he averages, 1,200 yards, and then I think he's going to have a tick up in receiving. He's also going to take a kick back to the house.
Again.
Yeah. So let's go 1561.
Okay. He had 144 receiving last year, 990 on the ground.
Okay.
Maybe we should just go back and look at 2013 Florida State football and just ape those stats.
Yeah.
Johnny Wilson or Keon Coleman, whoever the leading wide receiver ends up being. 1,200?
Yeah, that's a good number.
Okay.
I was going to say 1180.
Ooh.
But yeah, 1,200.
Jaheim Bell, 570? Okay.
Yeah, 600, 570 somewhere. Again,
undercut
that's 40 yards a game. But if it's 600 yards, you got to assume I'm assuming 6 or 7 or 8 touchdowns, and they could be big touchdowns. So yeah, 600 I think is a good number.
Hurricanes blow. Wake up. I love our roster this season. However, I do wonder who is going to be our enforcer on defense, the guy who hurts people. Even more mid-Nole squads had some absolute bruisers. Just ask Marcus Lattimore. Who's that guy for 2023? We're going to refer to 2010 Florida State as mid? I don't know if I subscribe to that.
Well, they were 10-4. They lost 4 times.
Yeah, beat the Noles, beat the Canes, beat
Well,
an
they are
SEC
the
team in the
Noles.
bowl. I'm sorry, beat the Canes, beat the Gators.
Yeah.
Beat another SEC team, beat Spurrier in a bowl game. That's not mid.
What's weird about that is that you wouldn't call Greg Reed an enforcer.
Right.
You know what I mean? That was an incredible hit. It was an all-time hit. But you wouldn't think of him as like the guy that's going to be the enforcer. He just happened to deliver that memorable hit on Marcus Lattimore.
Fabian? Jared?
Yeah, Fabian's got that in him. I think Jared Verse is that guy.
Yeah.
And again, 38. Shaheem might have a little bit of that in him too.
Yeah, I feel like we don't think of pass edge rusher guy as like an enforcer, even though he's harassing the quarterback constantly, and they're having to, make do for him. But I like Shaheem. Good one. Good, Corey. Thank God you're here. Thank God.
Yes. Amen.
Mark in Naples. M. Adam CZ. Wake up! What's the most interesting FSU football story or issue you have ever covered? Interesting could mean good or bad. A story that was so fascinating that you constantly thought about it and wanted to write the longest column ever and or do the longest podcast in Wake Up history. As always, you guys are amazing. Go Noles.
I was kind of reminded of it, and I'm not saying this is my answer necessarily, but if you guys have been on Twitter at all, there was an AJC story, and this is going to sound like a UGA alum that's bashing the media, but the University of Georgia wrote this really long letter in response to this story that the AJC wrote about how Georgia rallies behind sexual assault accusations, like players that have been accused of sexual assault. That was the headline. And the story was just written by somebody that, in my opinion, had a clear agenda. He wrote about how they rallied behind. He mentioned 3 players by name, 2 of which were kicked off immediately, and the other one was suspended until charges were dropped. And then there was nothing in the story that said they rallied behind them or they protected them. And I would say it could be a 10-part podcast, not on the incident itself, but on the media coverage of Jameis from, let's say, October 2013 to December of 2014. Just so much stuff that really made my skin crawl. It just did. It forever changed my outlook on. I grew up in newspapers. I love journalism. We have to have journalism. But there are shades of it where you're like, man, that is preposterous. That is not the truth. You are tilting a story that isn't there to make it a story. And again, I am not talking about the Jameis stuff itself. I'm talking about the peripheral stuff. Like, I think it was the New York Times that wrote an article about how all these police officers were working Florida State games for extra money, as if they wouldn't be able to do their jobs as police officers because they were Florida State fans. It's a small college town, man. They all do that. Every Auburn Police Department, most people that work the Auburn Police Department are going to work football games. It's not a crazy story. The New York Times sent somebody down to cover the Jimbo Fisher show and ask questions, like make fun of the people that just asked Jimbo about football and not about the Jameis incident. And then that same night was when Strozier was shot up, and they got out of town before they didn't do that story. They got out of town, didn't write a single word about it. The reporter that was in town, because he was in town to make fun of local bumpkins and call-in shows. And those aren't great examples. I could do a 10-part podcast, but who's got that kind of time, Aslan?
I don't even want to denigrate that answer by throwing 2 cents in.
All right. Come on, you can say something.
Here are 2 pennies.
Yeah, do it.
Either the second summer they went down to IMG with Willie, or maybe just some sort of like embedded. I mean, I wasn't though, but maybe some sort of like retrospective. Just if I get Brian Burns and give me Cam Akers, give me DeAndre Francois, and just talk about like the Virginia Tech game, like that week of practice.
Oh, okay.
And just like, and just cut all these interviews in there about everybody talking about the excitement. Like, we love this guy. We believe in him. And, man, we felt great. And then just, like, cut to, like, a play in the game, like, first drive, Virginia Tech just taking it down their throats. And just then, like, and that's when we knew. And just kind of do, like, this whole arc about how this was amazing, how this couldn't go wrong. There was no way this could possibly have gone wrong. And then it just went absolutely terribly wrong from the jump. Or just do, like, the IMG diaries, because I think that whole thing was just bizarre. Them all being down there.
There's been a lot of positive stories around Florida State, too. I'd hate to just do a big long column or podcast about the bad stuff. But yeah, I thought that would be. I think the Chris Winkie years would be fascinating. Like this 26-year-old dude from Minnesota that's pretty surly, and he's dealing with a bunch of 19-year-old phenom wide receivers and offensive linemen and running backs, and just that dynamic. And what that was like, I think, would be really like. I just assume he was treated more like a coach, like as in they didn't hang out with him. I doubt he partied with his offensive teammates very often. I think I would see him more with the GAs, but on Saturdays he was the guy. So that I just think that's just a fascinating dynamic to have the 28-year-old throwing passes to the 20-year-old, and it's still working.
Yeah. I think the most interesting story is yet to come.
I
think it'll either be this team getting back to the mountaintop or tailing Michael Alford through the dark of the night to meet Greg Sankey at the Buc-ee's in Orange Beach and accept the invitation to the SEC.
And big news, though, the ACC now is going to be on the CW.
Okay.
Did you see that?
Really?
Yeah.
So like Jefferson Pilot Days coming back, huh?
Yep. Instead of the Raycom, it's now CW. So I can't remember. It's 40 football and basketball games will be on the CW this year. So now the money's going to start flowing in, gang.
PCB Noleman. This is for you, Corey. Wake up.
Okay.
Really enjoy the show. Last week you were talking about pivotal games in Nole history. An often overlooked game, 1979. First game of the season at home, Southern Miss. Florida State was down 14-3 in the fourth quarter. They would score 14 points to win 17-14. I think we can call that 14 unanswered.
Yeah, amen.
That was the 11-0 season and led to an Orange Bowl invite. I think Bobby Butler started the comeback with a blocked punt. Wally and Jimmy caught fire after that. I was there. Very exciting game, which led to a historic season. Oh, it's not even a question. Thanks. I guess we didn't. We were talking about pivotal games and like Mike Norvell's tenure. But Corey, do you want to speak at all about the 79 game against Southern Miss? Do you remember all of it, or is that pretty succinct and not much needs to be said?
I was trying to think. I thought they had a punt return, but no fan. Let's see how they scored. Yeah, I was right. Yeah, how about that? Look in '79. I was a toddler, so that wasn't a game I watched, but I had read about it. Yeah, they were down. They scored. They scored an 8-yard pass from Jimmy Jordan, and then 2-point was no good. And then Gary Henry,
the great
had
Gary.
a 65-yard punt return for the go-ahead score with 6.5 minutes left. And look, I'm not going to espouse too much on that game because it was 44 years ago. But games like that, when you're trying to overcome, you're trying to make your mark and become a team, become a program. winning those types of games are just big, man. When you're a team that doesn't quite know you're good, like that 79 team, I'm sure didn't. They were ranked 19th in the country to start the season. Certainly nobody expected them to go undefeated. To win a game like that, and Southern Miss it wasn't Brett Favre, but it was still a pretty good Southern Miss team. That just gives you belief and gives you confidence, and those kind of wins make you believe. And that team, if I remember correctly, won a lot of close games. And that's when you can win that first close game, that can open the floodgates. So yeah, and look, I would say it was a big deal. My only counter would be is they were really good in 79. I think they were better in 1980, but they lost 2 one-point games, one to Miami and one to Oklahoma. But I think they were better in 1980. But then they went 5-6 years without being great. So it wasn't. It didn't start a dynasty like those games in 87 did, or it didn't start a championship run. But that was a very good, obviously, run for Bobby Bowden to prove that he was one of the great coaches in the country.
I was thinking about that.
They won 17-14 one game, 17-10, 17-6. They beat LSU 24-19, beat Cincinnati 26-21. So yeah, they had a lot of close wins.
I was thinking about this the other day for some reason, and I don't like the fact that when we look back on this, are we really going to call the Syracuse game or even the Louisville game, which they ended up losing, which that was the turning point because they come back the next week and they beat Syracuse? What a underwhelming, when we look at this thing from 20,000 feet up in the sky and we're back on top of the mountaintop, hopefully here, that we have to point to that game because you've mentioned games in Bobby Bowden's career that kind of turned the page, or at least kind of were pivot points for where they would end up going. I don't know if Jimbo really ever had one. I mean, maybe Florida 2010 because you finally snap that streak against that team, and then you end up going and winning a bowl game. But listen, I mean, they took a few more years for it to get off the air or get off the ground truly. I don't know, it'd be kind of underwhelming. When we talk about Mike Norvell, that noon game, I think it was noon against Syracuse, right? It gets Garrett Schrader in the orange.
Come on, man. Remember me dumping the champagne on myself?
Yeah.
I think it was a 3:30 game. It was definitely at night when I was dumping the champagne on myself.
That's right.
No, I don't think it was the Syracuse game necessarily. I think that
because we can't say Miami because they ended up losing to Florida a few weeks later, with an interim coach down there in Gainesville. So although maybe that we can dramatize it for television, right, and pretend that game didn't happen. We can point to the Miami game, right?
I guess, man. But then, and even last year they started out 4-0, which was great. And the Louisville game was, I thought, their most impressive win, all things considered, of that stretch. But then they lost 3 games in a row. And I'm telling you, what they did to Georgia Tech was something that it was probably Miami is the one that everybody will remember. But that Georgia Tech game, coming off a 3-game losing streak, and I know they were playing a terrible quarterback, but man, they blitzkrieged that team. And if they didn't do dumb stuff at the goal line, they would have won by 50 points. And they outgained them by 400 and something yards. And I think that just created that month when they blew everybody out. That, to me, I don't know why, but I just feel like that Georgia Tech game, not letting them stay close, dominating a team, and then turning into a team that dominated bad teams for a month. I thought that was a really impressive. That started the 6-game winning streak, and we'll see, man. We'll see. We might look back at the end of this year, and it will have started a stretch where they won 17 out of 18 games. So, or 18 in a row. Maybe that was the start of an 18-game winning streak. Yeah. Who knows?
Funny you mentioned that. We'll get to the next question here, but I was on ACC radio with my guy Dallin and Roddy Jones.
Congrats, man. How'd that go?
Really good. I was just pumping sunshine. But then Roddy's like, hey, man, I do want to ask you this. He's like, I get it. They look really good. He's like, but he just starts being honest and fair. They beat Georgia Tech. They weren't good. They beat Louisiana. They weren't good. They beat Syracuse. They weren't that good. And the best 3 teams on their schedule, arguably, they lost to. Clemson, Wake Forest, NC State. And NC State had a backup quarterback nonetheless.
Well, second half.
Right. And I'm just like, man, damn it. He's right. What do I do? I'm like, what would Corey say? I'm like, what's Corey's retort to this? And that's when I pulled out the, they weren't great teams, but no Florida State team has done what that team did to all those opponents since Jameis was around here, right? Even even 16, 15, there still weren't blowout games in Jimbo's. I think things were winding down. 14 as well, obviously. I'm like, look at any other team. I did mention Georgia, which I shouldn't have because I think Georgia absolutely blasted Tennessee. But I did think I said Alabama to cover my base. I'm like, just go back and look. I'm like, nobody else just absolutely snatched souls in the first quarter the way that Florida State did the last 6 weeks of the season. So that and the last 2 games of the season, kind of give you reason to think that they got a lot to build on. And
they were up on. I think Georgia Tech scored on like the last play of the game, or something like. I think it was the last play of the game. They were up 41-10 in the last play against Georgia Tech. They beat Miami 45-3. They beat Syracuse 38-3 and completely took their foot off the gas in that game. Beat ULL 49-17. Like that's a month straight of absolutely crushing teams. And again, that just especially on the road in conference, you don't go on the road and beat teams 45-3 and 38-3. I mean, that's 83-6 combined. I think that's right. Do your math, Clark. Yeah. I mean, that doesn't happen. They didn't give up a touchdown for like 9-10 quarters. That kind of stuff just doesn't happen in 2022 college football. So that's what fills me with hope that it wasn't just if they had beaten Georgia Tech 41-33 and beaten Miami 29-26, it's a whole different conversation, right? They were utterly dominant.
Yes.
That's what the difference was, I think. It wasn't just a normal 6-game winning streak. It was a 6-game winning streak where you absolutely blitzed 4 teams. And then the other 2 games, you held on for dear life, and you have a great quarterback that won you the games.
See, I said that, but not as eloquently. But nonetheless.
Oh, well, hey, you can't be – you got other strengths, man.
I took your thoughts, pass them off as my own, so that's all we can.
Fine.
That's all we can do. We pass off our thoughts, our picks over at mybookie.ag. You go to mybookie.ag, use the promo code WARCHANT. You get an instant cash deposit bonus, and then you profit, at least when it's the NBA playoffs. So we'll talk to you folks in May about that. I don't have the schedule pulled up in front of me here right now, Corey, but Oklahoma over under 9.5 total wins for the Sooners. Under is -121. The over is -101. Like, I want to hammer the under.
I do too, not just because I was not overly impressed with them last year. I mean, their running back was good, and obviously the quarterback can play, but they weren't overly impressive. But also, those are Big 12 officials, and it's their last year in the Big 12. And I just don't think they're, I know officials are supposed to be completely objective and, bipartisan and not subjective to the whims of humanity and human thought and emotion. But Oklahoma and Texas have left their conference to the SEC. So you're maybe not going to call a hold when you should. Maybe you do call a roughing the passer that wasn't a roughing the passer. Maybe you really try to jab it to them a little bit late in games to make sure Texas Tech hangs on for the win or something like that. So I think they're going to be playing all those teams on their schedule, plus the referees.
Yeah, I'm looking at their schedule, man. They got SMU, they got at Tulsa, at Cincinnati. They got to play Texas, obviously neutral site. They're going to host UCF. Bedlam is at Oklahoma State, which I thought Bedlam was over after last year.
No, they're in the conference one more year, so they do it one more time, I think.
And then at BYU, and then TCU to end the regular season, man. So, I don't know. That was like 5 teams I just rattled off. They could possibly lose 3 of those. So, I'm taking the under. You go to mybookie.ag. Use the promo code WARCHANT for that instant cash deposit bonus. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere at mybookie.ag. All right, winding things down, Corey. A few more left in the mailbag here. Let's get to them. Colorado, Noel. Wake up. Gentlemen, assuming that our defense will be better this season, how much defensive improvement would you attribute solely to the work that Coach Storms and company have done, and where would you rank our strength and conditioning staff nationally? Thank you. Go Noles.
6th.
Nice. I can't argue against that.
Top 10 for sure, right? I just don't know. I don't know. I can sit here and act like I know the inner workings of Florida State strength staff compared to the rest of the country, but I don't. I'm sure they're all working very hard. I think Storms is good at his job, for sure, but there are a lot of them that are good at their jobs.
Yeah, but just think about it. Think about this defense being improved, Corey. Do you think it's just a physical defense? It's just nasty up front that's stopping the run, which comes back to physicality, which comes back to what we think about strength and conditioning and being in the weight room. Let's humor our guy here.
Yeah, no, let me see what Josh Farmer looks like. Let me see what Patrick Payton do.
Okay.
Let me see that. I want to see the guys that have actually been. Jared Burst is a freak that I would look like an incredible strength and conditioning coach if that was my pupil.
Yeah.
Like, Jared, go do a 44-inch vertical. Now go bench 460 pounds. Now go jump over that building. Like, some of those, and Fabian Lovett's a 23-year-old man that has been lifting weights and been in a college weight program for 5 years now. So those two guys, and Braden Fisk too. I want to see the guys that have been developed. Let me see that, and then I can answer legitimately, because it's a fair question. I just don't. There's no way to really quantify, in my opinion. There's no really way to quantify a question like that with an answer. But Josh Farmer, is he moving people? Is Patrick Payton bigger but still as fast? Guys like Byron Turner, guys like that, are they bigger and faster? Because that's what you want to see. So let's see. It's also hard when it's not college football like we remember it, man. Braden Fisk comes in already. Braden Fisk. Most of the guys that are on this two deep on the defense are older veteran guys, and half of them came from other schools. So I want to judge what the guys that have been here that I've seen since they got here, what they look like this year.
Yeah. Hey, if Shaheem's your enforcer, right? When people hit him and they don't move forward, that maybe helps out too, right?
Yeah, if they start going backwards. If they go backwards, helmet flies off, ball goes a different direction. That's the stuff I want to see, Storms.
Yeah. Not bearing the lead here, but our guy Michael Langston, I don't want to get him out of his whatever he's doing. Poor fella, always busy. So Florida State did get a commitment from, I don't know if you want to call it, Corey. Can we do it once and for all, at least on our program? Maybe we're not being consistent across all of our multiple programs and content on all the channels we do at warchant.com. But you and I, when we talk about a recruit, and I don't want to do whatever's higher. Like, we're not doing that. We're picking one. Are we going to pick what our network on 3 ranks the guy at, or what his consensus ranking is?
We can do a consensus, I think.
Okay. Jonathan Daniels out of Pensacola is on 3 5-star offensive lineman.
Oh.
But he's a consensus 4-star. So I just didn't even figure out what I want to do in my life there with that. But anyhow, so go ahead.
He committed, and I'm looking at the rankings. So Florida State is now 11th in the country in the team rankings in recruiting on 3.
Not bad.
It's pretty good, gang.
Charles
I don't
Lester,
know where they were a week ago or 2 weeks ago, but I feel like they've climbed a pretty precipitous amount since then. Yeah,
so Jonathan Daniels, 6'4", 275-pound offensive lineman out of Pine Forest High School. He's not even a 5-star anymore on the On3 network. Apparently we downgraded him, so that wasn't even a need to have a discussion about that. Look at me. But he is ranked he is ranked 116th in the nation. He's the number 8 offensive tackle, and he's an 18th prospect in the state of Florida. Picked the Noles over Georgia, and Kentucky. So relationships. Michael always talks about it, but he told the On3's Chad Simmons that's a large part of the reason why I decided to come here. So elite prospect. There you go, everybody. You want your blue chippers? There you go. The Walking Nolo 1. I'm trying to dig deep for a question, guys, so here goes nothing. At what point in time was our baseball program dominant? I know we had the postseason streak. Remember here, you're talking to a young FSU fan. What years do I need to go back and watch games to get the idea of why we are a blue blood on the diamond? Thanks for what you do. Every bit of content in the next few weeks helps. We'll do it, man. We'll do it. We love you guys. The 90s, really, right, Corey? I mean, the 80s was something, but the 90s was dominant stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you start, I'm just looking right now, I think you start in like 1985.
Okay.
They won 59 games. In 86, they went 61-13 and made it to the championship game in Omaha. 87, 55 wins. 88, 50 wins. '89 College World Series, 54 wins, and it just went on from there. I would say from really honestly, from like '85 until they brought the super regional format in, which I think was 2000 or 2001. Before that, it was, if you don't know, and you're young, so you might not know, instead of 4 teams at a regional, it would be 6 teams at a regional, and there were 8 of those regionals around the country. And whoever won the 6-team regional went to Omaha. Well,
99, Corey.
Okay, so Florida State, back in the mid-'80s to late '90s, had a huge advantage over most everyone because of pitching. So a 6-team regional, it's a 6-team tournament, double elimination. You might be playing 5 or 6 games. Well, pretty much everybody else at that regional, especially when you're the 1 seed, has run out of pitching by game 3 or game 4. Meanwhile, Florida State's got some arms. So they would win those all the time. So they were out in Omaha all the time because they just had, frontline pitching, backline pitching, pitching everywhere to go along with superstars. J.D. Drew, Eduardo Perez, Pedro Grafal, the newest Hall of Fame members. And so I would say 85-ish, mid-'80s to like late '90s, 2000, to McDougal. Those years, they were dominant. After that, it's just I think they've been fine. They've been good. They've been a top 10 or 12 program. But I think that's what made them a blue blood from 85 to 2000.
You got 2003 probably. I mean, they still hosted a super. They just unfortunately hosted Augie Garrido and Houston Street in Texas in 2003. I mean, 2002, they won 60 games.
Yeah.
They were absurd. I think they might have been the number 1 national seed that year, and they lost to Pulmonary and Notre Dame.
Yeah.
That's something I'd want to talk about. Maybe I'd talk to Link over beers. Maybe we do something next offseason. We're running out of time to do an offseason something. But, yeah, 85 to 2003, I'll say, Corey. Is that good?
But even then, they had that stretch of 44 straight 40-win seasons and making the tournament for 4.5 decades in a row. So they've been, even the last 5 years, they've been good, fine. They've made the postseason. But they haven't been consistently top 5, top 10. You're right, probably till like 2003. And Buster had a great year in '08. They had good years then too. But I just think that, you could pencil them into Omaha for about 15 straight years.
All right, last one.
We made it.
We did. Random_John. Good morning, Aslan and Corey. I already asked you this question the other day, Corey, but we can do it again.
Okay, great.
What is it that Jordan Travis did to have such a jump the way he did after last summer? Did he do an extra sit-up every day? Did he drink vitamin energy? Did Norvell say, let's go back and have a catch? Thus, Jordan learned how to throw a forward pass. Seriously, people have jumps, of course, but what we never get is how that jump occurred. So spill it. What did he do over the summer last year that he clearly did not do over any previous summer?
I don't know. I really don't know. The only thing I can say is the offensive line was better, and he trusted it.
Better receivers too, right?
Yeah.
Really good running back. I mean, not that,
Yeah, he had better help around him. Like, I still don't think 2021 Jordan Travis would have looked like he did last year if Johnny Wilson was on the team in 21 and Micah Pittman and Trey Benson, if they were on the team in 21 and the line was the line, I still don't think he would have looked like that. I just think it was a combination of him knowing he was the guy.
Yes.
Actually coming in, not having to fight off anybody else, playing really well that first game, giving him that confidence that it wasn't false confidence, it was real confidence, and knowing he could play in a game like that and play well. And also he trusted the guys in front of him to not have him run around like a crazy person. And so I just think that all of that combined with him staying healthy made him take that jump. But it's been, you're right. It's been a remarkable jump. They don't happen like this very often, if at all.
I mean, ownership sounds like such a cliche, but I feel like that's got to be a large part of it, right? I mean, finally, like, he knows it's his team. Not that he wasn't taking things seriously, it was being lax beforehand, but I imagine there has to be just something else you're tapping into when you know all the guys are relying on you, man. Because the year before, he didn't know, man. McKenzie was kind of elbowing into the picture a little bit. He didn't know. Tate had started as a freshman the year prior, so he was kind of taking reps as well. So, it was so undisputed, unanimously his job last year. It's just the command. I mean, I know that's another. I hate using all these cliches, but like, I watch a lot of college football. I mean, just the way he operated and knew where to go seemingly every single play. And like, this Jordan no longer is one read, two read, bail. Like, it is go through everything. I trust like what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
There's something there about something got unlocked, and I'm not answering the question, John, so I apologize. But I don't know if we even ask him or if we ask Norvell at ACC kickoff, like, hey, man, we've had people ask us this, Mike. Like, what happened? It's like, what allows us to happen? Maybe we can ask and try to get you an answer then. But right now, that's all I got for you.
Don't you think it's also just, if you've lived it as much as Jordan Travis has lived it, he's seen everything.
Yeah.
There's nothing that surprises him. He sees the picture. That's what Adam Fuller always says, seeing the picture and the full picture. He just sees it because he's, in 2021, he had started when he started that Notre Dame game, he had started 5 or 6 games in his career. They were COVID games, and I know they still counted, but it's just a different feel. And then he's going back and forth with McKenzie Milton. But the second half of 2021, I think, built in him the confidence to know he could do it at that level, and he'd seen everything. And there's no replacing experience. There's no substitute for it. And you want to be good, like you don't want to be experienced in crappy. Alex Hornibrook played a lot of football too. That didn't help him. Alex, you're my dog. I don't know why I keep bringing that. I don't know why I keep coming back to you, man. It's not your fault. But
Ja'Cory Harris, how about that?
Sure, there you go. There are guys that are just always going to be mediocre, but Jordan obviously had something in him. He obviously had something special in him, and it just took a certain amount of factors to get it out of him. Opportunity, health, and experience. Just living 2021, going through what he went through, playing in the swamp, playing at Death Valley. They didn't win either one of those games. He didn't play well in Death Valley. He was fine against Florida, but he got hurt and missed some of that game. But he lived those moments, and then he comes into 2022 knowing it's his team, and he's got that ability to go with it. And I just think in all walks of life, when you believe in yourself and have unshakable confidence in yourself, that you just can't put a price tag on that, man. And that's what, not to bring it back to Jameis, that's what made him so flippin' unique, is in Deshaun and Trevor Lawrence and guys like that, is that they get it immediately. And they do it without that experience. But it's just, I think Jordan Travis, he hit his stride, if you really look at it, probably 12 to 14 starts into his career, which isn't outlandish. It's just that his 12 and 14 starts came when he was a fourth-year junior. He didn't play at all, really, his first 2 or 3 years. So maybe it's a normal trajectory as far as starts and snaps, but it's just that he hadn't gotten a lot of experience his first 3 years.
Maybe we should look back at and log the games, like Charlie's second start versus, or maybe not starts, but maybe second major game action versus Jordan's second game versus Charlie's 13th versus Jordan's 13th.
What about Hornibrook? You want to throw him in there too as like a control?
We love the scientific method on Wake Up. By the way, on the way out, Old Dadzinol commented on that Southern Miss game from 79, asking, was this the game where people were booing Gary Henry for so many fair catches, then he returned one for a touchdown late? I was there, but only 12, so my memory isn't clear.
I don't know if he was booed, but yeah, he did return the punt for a touchdown there at the end of the game.
Yeah, he got it figured out. All right, boom. We got it figured out for you folks, too. There you go. Another week of shows in the books. We'll be back next week, maybe from other parts of the globe. Maybe.
Okay.
Try to get some interviews with Corey and I to also pass time. It's just I'm Gilligan trying to get off the island, trying to get interviews on the show. I'm trying, everybody. I promise. But you don't want to hear me complain. Thanks again, everybody, for listening. We appreciate the heck out of you. Corey, out in Hoover, being a great dad. Best of luck to Brady. I don't know, keep his head down, square it up, barrel it up. Just swing it's all on the wrists.
They won their first game,
all right.
And he got 2 at-bats. He saw 9 pitches. They were all balls. He never swung once. They called 1 a strike, but it wasn't. And, so he walked twice and scored a run. And they beat the 44th ranked team in the country, Aslan.
Let's go.
Come on now. 9th in the region, if you care about stuff like that. So the big win. Big win for Brady's team.
Would you ever say anything out loud like, hey, you missed? Like if the ump called a strike
No,
on
I
something?
would say that's not you or good eye. Something like that.
Oh, that's not
Something
you.
like
I like that.
Yeah,
Nice
yeah,
passive-aggressive. Love it.
Yep, absolutely.
Love it. All right, that's a wrap for us. Stay connected to warchant.com, the ultimate Seminole sports source. And don't forget, if you're a member of warchant.com, take advantage of all the great savings over at Garnet and Gold. 10% every day, and then on Wednesday, 25% off the College Vault, the old logo. We love it. For Corey, I'm Aslan. Thanks for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.